Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of My Unfair Advantage. Omar Martin here along with my beautiful wife,
Melinda Martin.
Melinda. And tonight's topic is mindset. It was suggested by one of our attendees. And I think it's a great topic because mindset is really the main thing when it comes to success. A lot of people seem to think that online success, and let's be honest, success at anything, man. Success at school, success in the workplace, in your career, at whatever venture you're going for. It's about mindset. That's the reality. I know it's not what most people want to hear, but it is the reality. I've said it many times before that in my own business, the tools, the training, the things I learned from my mentors, all of that stuff, if you added it all up, it only amounts to about 10% of the reason that I'm successful. Yes, all the methods, all the tactics, all the tools, all the training, everything I've ever done that has taught me internet marketing still only amounts to about 10% of what made me successful. The other 90% I have to attribute to things like conviction, dedication, stick-activity, faith. Basically, things that have to do with mindset. And the way that you think is the reality that you manifest. If you think that things are terrible, then guess what? To you, they are. Your perception is your reality, and if you really are, letting yourself be a victim, then you're going to have a really, really hard time being successful because success and excuses cannot be present at the same time. It's a paradoxical conflict. You cannot be successful and full of excuses at the same time. So, I think mindset is in many people's cases, it is actually a self-preservation mechanism. It's like a protection mechanism to justify their own place in life. It's a lot easier to have a bad attitude and just blame people and blame things and be a victim than it is to break out of that and say, no, I'm better than this. I can do better. I will succeed. I will excel. It's a lot easier to point the blame finger at someone else than it is to point it at yourself and do something about it and make a change. And that's reality, and that's tough medicine to swallow. It's the source of most people's poor attitude online when you see people complaining or about their status in life and blaming the economy or blaming the president or blaming their childhood or blaming anything. They're basically finding excuses. They're finding something to blame for their own mindset, for their own position in life, and they adopt this mindset. And here's the thing: mindset is contagious. We learned this when we were in the door-to-door business. I remember we would have these meetings with all the door-to-door people in the morning, and all the negative people would hang out together. They would find each other. Like the people that were complaining about their position in life, their position in the company, the people that didn't make a lot of sales that day, they would flock to one another. And there was like a little group of people that just did terribly in the field that day. They would go and hang out with each other. They would, it's almost like gravity. These attitudes are contagious, though, and if you have at least the smarts to get around people that are doing better than you, that eventually will it will spread, and you're going to eventually catch some of that positivity. So let's talk about a few of these killer mindsets, the mindsets that literally can destroy your future. One of them, which I talk about all the time. The excuse mindset, I think that's the biggest one that stops people. They are unhappy with where they are in life. Maybe they have dreams of the beautiful things, having a life of abundance, being successful in life and business or whatever. Maybe they have dreams of those things. Maybe they see others with those things, and they genuinely are happy for those other people, and they wish those things on themselves, but they don't feel that they can do them, and in order to justify their existence where they are, they make excuses as to why they shouldn't even try. And, the type of excuses that I'm talking about, sometimes to the untrained ear, they sound legit. Excuses like, well, Omar, you don't know how hard it is because you don't have kids. And it's hard to be successful if you have kids. Or, Omar, you don't know how hard it is because, I've got problems in my life, and my husband left me, And you don't know how hard it is when you've got a sick family member. And you don't know how hard it is when you have to have a full-time job. And you don't know how hard it is when you have debt and when you have this and when you grew up poor and when you... There's always... Well, not always, but that's not what I meant to say. There's no shortage of people with a bunch of excuses as to why they can't do something that they see you doing. And I learned this lesson in college when I dated a girl who had kids. And I met her, we were both sophomores. I graduated from that college. I went on to graduate school and got a master's degree. A total of 6 years had gone by. She was still a sophomore in that same school. Continued being a full-time student. All on the government's dime. Continued failing classes, getting financial aid. It was really amazing to me. And I remember one day asking her, like, what is going on? What is the problem? And I remember how offended she got. And she said, you don't have any idea what it's like to do this with kids and having kids. And I remember in that moment, for the first time, I saw things completely different when she used that excuse. And I said, you know what? I'm tired of hearing you make those kids your excuse. A positive mindset would make those kids your reason. Make those children that you have the reason why you have to graduate and succeed and get a good job, instead of making them the excuse as to why you can't. And really, it's all about a choice, about choosing the way that you look at things. You can literally choose the attitude that you want to have about the things that present themselves in your everyday life. You know, I once heard a story about a guy named Jerry, right? Jerry was the kind of guy that you love to hate, right? He was always in such a good mood. And if you ever asked him, hey, Jerry, how you doing? He would say,
if I were any better, I'd be twins.
That's right. And it was a great story. And he was in the restaurant business. And a lot of people followed him around as he went from restaurant to restaurant because he had such a great attitude. And everywhere he went, he brought success. And one day, he did something that you're never supposed to do in the restaurant business. He left the back door open. And 2 robbers held him up at gunpoint. And his hand was trembling, and he set off a combination while he was opening up the safe. And they shot him. They shot him several times. And Jerry survived. Jerry survived because of the skill of his doctors, but because of the great attitude that he had. Because as they were wheeling him into the hospital, there was a big nurse, and she was shouting all kinds of questions asked him. And one of the things they asked him was, are you allergic to anything? And he screamed, yes.
Bullets.
Bullets. And everybody that was around him laughed. They stopped for a minute and they laughed. And he mustered up enough energy to say, operate on me as if I'm alive, not as if I'm dead. I want to live. And Jerry survived thanks to the skill of his doctors, but also to his great attitude. And from that point on, whenever you ran into Jerry and you asked him, hey, Jerry, how you doing? I heard you got robbed. He says, I'm doing great. If I was any better,
I'd be twins.
I'd be twins. You want to see my scars? You know, and Jerry was the kind of person that just had a great attitude about everything. I heard that story a long time ago, and someone said to him, well, Jerry, what was going through your head when this happened to you, when you were getting robbed? And he said, the first thing that went through my head was, I should have locked the back door. But he said the second thing that went through his head was when he was going through that, when he got to that emergency room, he looked at the nurses and the paramedics, and he could see the look on their faces, and he read, this guy's a dead man. So he knew he had to act. He knew he had to say something, and he wanted to make a connection with them. He wanted to make them laugh, and he wanted them to know that he wants to live, that he chooses life. And I believe that attitude is what saved Jerry's life. I also believe that attitude can save your life. I believe that we have the power to choose how we live, to attain anything that we want, just through changing our mindset. If you believe it, you can achieve it. And the excuse mindset is probably the most detrimental one that you can adapt. Whenever you find yourself making an excuse as to why you didn't get some sort of result, or why you can't, and you know what an excuse is. Don't kid yourself, because at the end of the day, when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you know whether or not you're making a freaking excuse about something. But you know what? I challenge you to try to make that excuse a reason. Instead of making an excuse out of that factor in your life, that thing that seems immovable, make it a reason to succeed. Make it a reason. And I think you'll be able to change things. The other thing is the mediocrity mentality. The mediocrity mentality is the mentality where people just kind of give up. They throw in the towel. And, you know, I remember once someone said to me, Omar, well, what kind of dreams do you have? And I said, well, I've got, I would like to be retired by the age of 40 or whatever it is. And it wasn't very specific. I didn't say. And one of the things I was told was, Omar, the more specific you make your goals, the greater the likelihood of you actually hitting those goals. And I remember him pointing out to me that my goals were very mediocre, that I wasn't really shooting for abundance, that I wasn't really shooting for the stars, and that if I was only shooting for mediocrity and I failed, I would be stuck in poverty. And I that really impacted me, and I'm like, wow, really? So I don't have big dreams. And you know what happens to a lot of people is they have an income circle and they have a dream circle. And usually the dreams are much bigger. That dream circle is usually much bigger than the income circle. And in order to achieve those dreams and get to that outer perimeter of that dream circle, you have to expand your income circle. But what happens to most people as they work hard and they fail at saving money, they fail at budgeting, they become victims, they adopt a victim mentality, they let things happen to them instead of taking action and being the catalyst in their lives, what they start doing is shrinking the income circle. So that big 8-bedroom mansion, that turns into a studio apartment. That beautiful $80,000 BMW turns into a Toyota Camry. That they changed the dreams that they once had, and they reduced that income circle to adapt to their. They reduced that dream circle to adapt to their income circle, and that's sad. That's sad because what you should be doing is shooting to expand that income circle in order to attain that life of abundance. And you know what? Here's one that I hear all the time. It's that money is evil mentality. Money is the root of all evil. It's said no person with money ever. It just doesn't happen. And I'll tell you what, I've been homeless and I'm wealthy, and trust me when I say to you, wealthy is better. There's nothing bad about being wealthy. There's nothing bad about abundance. Having pursued my dreams, not giving up, adapting a winning mindset has enabled me to achieve a lifestyle that enables me to make things better for a lot of people. It enables me to employ 9 people and literally provide for their families by creating jobs for them. It has enabled me to provide a life for my mom that she and my father were unable to provide for themselves after 50 years of working in this country. It's enabled me to provide a lifestyle that, it's enabled me to have complete time freedom and financial freedom. And I know a lot of my friends and a lot of people that I went to school with and that I grew up with that are really struggling right now because they've allowed themselves to remain in the same situations that they were in 25 and 30 years ago. And they've allowed themselves to be convinced with the fact, with the thought of the premise that they're stuck where they are in New York, paying those astronomical prices for everything and never getting ahead. And they are broke after going to school for 4 years of college, but they convince themselves after being broke for 4 years of college that they should go for more degrees and continue to be. They convince themselves of all these wrong things, even though they're having counterproductive results. They start, as time progresses, they start to shrink their dreams to match their income and match where they are in life, instead of changing their position in life to match their dreams and match their income. And that's the mediocrity mentality that prohibits a lot of people, and a lot of people succumb to that, and they never actually achieve greatness. They never actually achieve a lot of things. And then a lot of people will come to me and they'll be like, well, Omar, it all depends on your definition of success. You know what I mean? Like, I love what I do. I'm perfectly happy. You know what? Maybe you do. And that's great. So you always wanted to live in a paycheck to paycheck. You always wanted to tell your kids, sorry, we can't afford to do that. Sorry, I can't buy you those sneakers. This was your dream. No, it's not. That's you making excuses again. That's you adapting the wrong mindset as a self-preservation tactic. Instead of getting angry about your position in life and saying, no, I want my kids to have the best. I want my kids to go to the best schools, have the best things. I want my kids to have every opportunity that I didn't have. Instead, you say, well, those are nice sneakers. And you know what? I don't want to teach them to be materialistic. I want to teach them to have values and principles and be broke, basically. So, there's no, I don't see any reason for that. I think that mindset really, really hinders people from achieving their true potential. Then you have, those are the defeatist mindsets. Those are the mindsets that preclude people themselves. But then you have the more deviant mindsets. Then you have the hater mindsets, basically. Now you have the people that are like, well, they've adapted that mediocre, that excuse mindset. And so, because they are where they are, they want to keep you where you are. It's like crabs in a bucket, right? Crabs in a bucket. You know why crabs never get out of a bucket? Because the other crabs in the bucket always hold you down. They always reach just when you're getting out. One of the other crabs is like, oh, shit, no. And they pull you back into the bucket, right? So crabs never get out of a bucket. You put one crab in a bucket, you'll get out. You put 10 in a bucket, they'll never get out. And this is the kind of mentality that most people that develop after a while. When you have that excuse mindset a lot, when you have that mediocrity mindset, you eventually become that hater. You see people that are achieving or that are shooting for their dreams. They're trying to break out of it. They're trying to go for abundance, and you're like, you'll never do that. Come on, man. That's a scam, dude. And they try to hold you down. Why? They do it under the guise of protecting you, but in reality, they're protecting themselves. They're justifying their own position in life and their own mediocrity mindset by keeping you where you are. The funny thing about it is it's always a guy that isn't making a quarter that'll tell you that you can't make $1. And that's understandable, because a lot of people have those terrible mindsets, those hater mindsets. But what's absurd to me is that people actually listen. They take advice. They take cardiac advice from a plumber. If you were having chest pain, who would you call?
Doctor.
You'd call a doctor. You'd call 911, right? If you're having, would you call the plumber?
No.
No. Now, if your toilet was clogged,
I'll call a plumber.
You wouldn't dial 911?
No.
No. Well, because it's the clogged toilet. We'll call the plumber, right? Mm-hmm. But you'll have $1 million idea, and you'll ask your next door neighbor, who's broker than you, because somehow that makes sense to you. It makes sense to you, and then you'll listen to him. You'll listen to your broke neighbor Jerry tell you how you'll never make no money on them internets because that's all scam. He's got 10 cents less than you. You're listening to him about your dream. Or you're asking your buddies at work, who's broker than you, the guy who owes you lunch money from last week, you're asking him an opinion about your internet marketing business. It's crazy. It's crazy. So that's even crazier than the hater that tries to keep you from being successful with that hater mindset. So there's a couple of other types of mindsets. And those are the incredulous mindsets. And the incredulous mindsets are the ones that they have the dream, they like it, they want what you have, but they don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the work because they don't want to fail. They're afraid. It's fear. Those are all rooted in fear. The majority of these negative mindsets are rooted in fear. And there's the do it for me guy. Well, if it works, why don't you do it for me and then I'll pay you after it works? Right. Okay. So what if you were to walk into college and ask the dean of any department to go ahead and cover the tuition for you, and then you'll pay that back if and when the education works and you start making money from it? Yeah, that's not how life works, right? So they're challenging whether or not your system, your product, your thing works, but they don't understand how life actually works. To do it for me. How about the I'll believe it when I see it mentality? That's another very, very misguided way of looking at things. It's a very misguided mindset. The I'll believe it when I see it, the pessimistic mindset, contradicts the laws of nature. Think of any man-made thing that you've ever stood and marveled at. Any structure, any man-made creation that has given you pause. Mount Rushmore, a majestic building, a bridge, anything like that, that you look at and you're like, holy shit, how did they do that? Because it's one thing to see a beautiful building on a postcard or in a picture. It's a totally different thing altogether to stand on the steps of that building and look up. Have you ever stood on the steps of the Empire State Building? Were you fortunate enough to stand on the steps of the World Trade Center and look at how you couldn't see the top? You couldn't see the top. Have you ever stood at the base of the Golden Gate Bridge or the George Washington Bridge in Upper Manhattan? Have you ever looked at these things and said, oh my God, how did they build this road 200 feet in the air and 2 miles across a river? Who even thought this up? Have you ever looked at, a spaceship launch? I just recently watched the SpaceX launch where the booster rocket flew back to Earth backwards and landed on the landing pad just like the cartoons did when I was a kid. I mean, man-made creations that you just marvel at, right? But still, you'll look at something like that and you'll still hold the mindset of I'll believe it when I see it. So you think that person that thought of that bridge, think of that one guy, the first person that thought, I'm going to put a bridge here. Think of the struggle. Think of the amount of people that he had to convince. Think of the mindset that he had to have. He had to, or she, had to believe it before they see it. As a matter of fact, unless someone believes it first, no one will ever see it. That is the way nature works. That is the way man-made creations work. They always originate in the mind. They don't originate in reality. They originate in the mind. Anything and everything that was ever achieved was first conceived. Period. If you don't follow that line of thinking, then you lack a fundamental understanding of physics, nature, and what is mankind. Because anything and everything that has ever been created with hands, with technology, has first been created in somebody's mind. Somebody had to think it up. Somebody had to believe it. And then that person, or that and I'm not saying that they did it by themselves, but along the way, to manifest it, they had to convince people, recruit people, raise the money, get people to believe in it with them. And that is an achiever mindset. Believing it before you see it, leaping, and leap and the net shall appear. It's always that guy that's always like, no. I gotta believe it. I gotta see it. You know me, man. I believe it when I see it. I believe it when I see it. Well, you know what? That mentality is the mentality that you think is safe to have. But the reality is that that's the mentality that's holding you back. The mentality is holding you back because you lack faith. And I'm not trying to indicate some sort of spirituality or higher power. When I say you lack faith, I say you lack faith in yourself. Because you're waiting for somebody else to show you something before you believe that you can do it. You are succumbing to other mindsets, to excuse mindsets, to hater mindsets, to the you do it for me mindset, to the I'll wait till somebody else accomplishes it before I even try. I have people that they come to me for coaching or for help and helping them accomplish their dreams, and they want to learn every little thing before they take the very first step. They need to understand everything. I met someone recently that they were on one of my webinars, and I said, well, who's a newbie? Who's got experience? Who considers himself an internet newbie? And this guy thought he was funny. He said, I'm an expert newbie. And I was like, what do you mean you're an expert newbie? He says, well, I've been a newbie for about 3 years. I've been studying internet marketing for 3 years. I've been studying. He's like, I'm an expert at all the different things. I'm like, you've been studying. How much money have you made? Oh, none. I haven't made a dime yet. You haven't done anything. It's like, no, because now I need to learn e-commerce. Now I need to learn Amazon and e-commerce because I don't know anything about that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? He's like, yeah, no, of course, because I need to understand these things before I get involved. And my question was, have you ever flown on an airplane? I said, of course I've flown on an airplane. Do you understand the way jet propulsion works? Do you understand every single component of a jet engine? Do you understand all the dials, all the instruments in the cockpit? Can you fly the plane? No. But you had no problem getting in it and risking your life, even though you didn't understand how any of that works, right? You walk into any doctor, just because it says MD on his door. You walk into any doctor because he's covered by your plan. It says MD on his door. You walk in there, you tell him two things, and you let him stick a needle in your arm and inject a fluid into your body without ever asking him, where'd you go to school? What kind of grades did you get? But you come to me for coaching, and I say, this is what you got to do to make $1 million. And you're like, oh, no. I got to understand this. I got to know every little bit of it. These are the mindsets. These are the defeatist mindsets that hold you back. These are the mindsets that keep you from doing what you want to do. You know what's another one? The my money mindset. There's a lot of negative mindsets I'm sure Melinda could share with us from the help desk. One of them that I see all the time is the my money mindset. It's the guy that wants the refund, and he's had your product for 3 months, and he hasn't done a damn thing, hasn't followed the instructions, looked for every single misspelling that he could find on the website, and that right there is the reason why it wouldn't work for him, of course, because I misspelled the word there somewhere on the website when I was typing it up because I was too busy probably counting my money, and I lost my concentration. Being facetious there. But nonetheless, you have people that will, come to you 3 months later, 2 months later, heck, whatever amount of time later, say, hey, I want my money back. My money? Hold on a second. What do you mean, my money? Did you think that you were depositing that money into some sort of escrow account and that I was holding it for you and that I would repay that to you with interest when you saw fit? Who the fuck? Who thinks that way? You know what I mean? I want my money back. It stopped being your money the way the day that we exchanged a product in exchange for that cash. Okay? Then it became your product and my money. Until then it was your money, my product, right? But then we swapped, right? So it's not your money. So, when you have that mentality that it's my money, you know what? You're going about life all wrong because you are creating fallbacks for yourself. You're failing to see the merit in the Magellan approach of burning the boats, of being all into something, of having faith, of having conviction, of having a positive mindset that believes it before they see it. The mindset that will make the best out of every situation. The mindset where someone asks you, how you doing? And on your worst day, when you're suffering from kidney stones and ingrown toenail and you'll still say to them, if I was any better, I'd be twins, right? Because it's mindset that creates the chemicals in your brain that manifest the reality of success. It's that mindset that makes up the 90% of where I am today. The other 10%, you know what? There's no shortage of coaches out there that can teach you how to make money online. I'm only one of thousands, probably millions of people out there that have made millions of dollars using the internet and that have a system that they can show you. I'm one. And you know what? I'm not even really good at a bunch of different ways. I've only gotten good at a few, but that's all I've needed. And thank God I had my wife to help me with the rest of it. So the point that I'm making is that the majority of what got me to where I am, that has gotten my wife and I to where we are, is the mentality that we're not going to stop, that we're not going to be held down, that we are going to continue pressing forward. Do you really think I would have made any less money with that last product launch if I had used Joomla or ClickFunnels instead of WordPress? The tool is not completely insignificant, but it's about 10% responsible for the success. The mindset and the mentality of the operator, the attitude of the craftsman, of the artisan, that is what results in the beautiful man-made thing that you can marvel at, that others marvel at while they just make excuses about why they can't do things. I fall short, right? Because I still have bad days and I still get pissed off at stuff and I still lose my temper. I think we all have those days, right? I strive to be better, but I think we all have days where we want to be left alone, where things just, oh my goodness, right? And I think we also all know at least one or two people in our lives that it just seems that every time we see them or we're talking to them or we're around them, they're always positive. My friend Tom ends every meeting with make today great. My friend Tom has such a positive, contagious attitude. Whenever I see him, he's always smiling, he's always laughing, he's always cracking a joke. It's almost hard to be serious around the guy. I've got so many people that I know that have achieved great things, and there's such a distinct difference from being around those people. And I get around my friends that I used to hang around with, and you know what? They're still broke. They're still doing the same things. They're still smoking pot. They're still doing drugs. They're still cheating on their wives. They're still complaining about life. They haven't done a damn thing to better themselves. They haven't set any kind of goals. Literally, I'll ask them, what are your goals for next year? And they're like, well, I don't know. I got to check how many vacation days I got left. Like, that's the kind of response you get. No goals, no ambition. And you know what? I get it. Being ambitious isn't for everyone. I get that. Not everyone is gifted with the entrepreneurial mindset. I get it. The world needs its share of blue collar workers. I was one. I was a blue collar worker for a very, very long time. And when I was there, the only goal I had really was that next raise. When is that next raise? When is that next vacation? When can I do that? My dad was a very humble blue collar, but you know what? He never even got to own his own home. When he died, he was broke, Unfortunately, I hadn't gotten my act together yet at that time to be able to provide for him, but I've done so for my mom. And the point that I'm making is that I understand that it's not for everyone. But if you've got the bug, and I know that you do because you're listening to this, you're here, you've put up with my sarcasm and my facetiousness all the way till now. So I know that you have the bug. I know that you're interested. I know that you have a goal. I know that you're a big thinker. But maybe you're still surrounded by those parasites. You're still surrounded by people with negative attitudes. I'm going to challenge you to surround yourself with people that are doing better than you. I'm going to challenge you to surround yourself with people who are making much more money than you, who are achieving much greater successes than you. And for people, you surround yourself with people that you want to emulate, that you want to strive to be like. Because you know what's funny? You'll go to someone that's a multimillionaire and you'll give that guy your multi-million-dollar idea, and you know what you're probably going to get? You're probably going to get words of encouragement. When you go to your beer buddies and you give them your multi-million-dollar idea, you know what you're probably going to get? Laughed at, ridiculed. That's what you're going to get. Because they have no concept, they can't even fathom the idea of ever having $1 million. They probably couldn't even tell you how much space it would take up on a table if you had $1 million in $20 bills. They can't conceive it. So how could they possibly give you any kind of advice? Shame on you for going to those guys with that idea for advice. As one thing is sharing your successes, and another thing is, going. And in some cases, you'll go to people you love, and they'll even try to hold you down. Sometimes you're even the closest family members. Why? Because they can't conceive it and they don't want to see you get hurt. They think it's impossible. They think people like us aren't meant for that. We're not meant for that kind of success. And they want to protect you from failing by telling you, don't do that. Don't chase that dream. And that's terrible. I think those are the type of people that shatter lives. Sometimes intentional, sometimes unintentional. But I'll tell you what, you take that $1 million idea and you ask for advice from somebody that's made millions of dollars in any other kind of industry. And you know what? You're probably going to get very encouraging words. Why? Because that person does know what it's like to first conceive a multi-million-dollar idea. That person knows what the struggle's like. They'll probably even give you some words of caution. And they'll encourage you to embrace the hard work and the struggle and the challenges that lie before you if you truly want to achieve great wealth and pursue that $1 million idea. So the burden falls on you to not go to that broke neighbor for advice, to not hinge your future financial moves on your beer buddies and the guys at work that are just as broke as you. And really, the challenge falls on your shoulders to believe it before you see it, to actually create that vision in your mind's eye of a life of abundance, of a life of success, of a life that your parents wanted you to achieve. And I think you owe it to your family. I think you owe it to your children, to your kids, to the people that are around you, not just in the sense of making money for them that you can give them, but to serve as an example, to show them, hey, look, you see me, I came from right where you are, and look at what I did. You can do it too. If I can do it, you can do it. So I hope that this discussion about the different types of mindsets, the defeatist mindsets and the mindsets of abundance, the mindsets that are positive, has had a small impact in your life. And maybe next time you're going to make an excuse about something, or you're going to say why you couldn't do something, well, maybe you'll remember my story about Jerry. Maybe you'll remember my story about that girl in college that spent 6 years in sophomore year because she had kids. And maybe you'll use it to somehow shape your financial future. I thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next MUA episode. Take care.